The transport ship Viridian Dawn hummed through the silence of deep space, carrying its diverse cargo of refugees from the outer colonies. Among the 200 souls aboard, only one was human, a young woman named Chloe Martinez, wrapped in a faded blue blanket that had seen better days. The ship's hold had been converted into temporary living quarters, with species of all kinds huddled together in the cramped space. Chloe sat near the rear bulkhead, her blanket pulled tight around her shoulders against the recycled air that never seemed quite warm enough. Beside her, a family of Kreth, feline-like beings from the fourth moon of Salvara, tried desperately to calm their 3 cubs. The smallest cub, no larger than a human toddler, shivered violently. Its silver fur, usually plush and insulating, had been singed during their escape from the colony bombardment. The cub's mother, whose name translated roughly to Silver Whisker, held her child close, but even her body heat wasn't enough. The other 2 cubs pressed against their parents, their large eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting. Albert Chen, the ship's human medical officer, made his rounds through the hold. He'd been working for 36 hours straight, treating injuries and rationing medical supplies that were never meant to serve this many refugees. When he reached Chloe's section, he paused, noticing her attention fixed on the Kareth family. "They're not doing well," Chloe said quietly, not looking up at Albert. "The little one especially." Albert knelt beside the Kareth family, running his scanner over the smallest cub. "Hypothermia," he muttered. "Their homeworld runs hot. This temperature is survivable for them, but not comfortable. For a cub with burns," he shook his head, "I don't have enough thermal blankets for everyone who needs one." Chloe's hands tightened on her blanket, the one her grandmother had made, the one she'd carried through 3 colony evacuations, the one that smelled like home even when home no longer existed. She looked at it for a long moment, then at the shivering cub. "Here," she said, standing up and moving toward the Kareth family. Silver Whisker's ears flattened against her skull, a defensive posture. Other species rarely approached Kareth families unbidden, especially when cubs were involved. But Chloe moved slowly, holding out her blanket with both hands. "For the little one," Chloe said softly. "It's warm, I promise." Albert stepped forward to translate through his communicator, but Silver Whisker's translator implant had already processed the words. The Kareth mother's golden eyes widened as Chloe gently draped the blanket over the smallest cub. The effect was almost immediate. The cub stopped shivering, its tiny paws kneading at the soft fabric. It made a sound, a purring trill that spoke of relief and comfort. The other 2 cubs immediately moved closer, pressing against their sibling to share the warmth. "Human Chloe," Silver Whisker said, her voice thick with emotion that the translator couldn't quite capture. "This is your scent marker. Your comfort cloth." "It's just a blanket," Chloe replied, though her voice wavered slightly. "Your baby needs it more than I do." But it wasn't just a blanket, and everyone in that section of the hold knew it. Among most species, personal comfort items were sacred. They carried identity, history, belonging. To give one away, especially to strangers, was unthinkable. Albert watched Chloe return to her spot on the floor, wrapping her arms around herself against the cold. He started to remove his own jacket, but she waved him off. "Save your energy, Doc. You've got 200 people to take care of." Over the following days, something remarkable happened. The 3 Kareth cubs adopted Chloe's blanket as their most prized possession. When the ship's artificial day cycle dimmed tonight, the cubs would carefully arrange the blanket in their sleeping area, ensuring every corner was perfectly positioned. They took turns grooming it, their rough tongues removing any dust or debris with ritualistic precision. But more than that, they guarded it. When a Thorian passenger accidentally stepped too close, the eldest cub, barely adolescent by Kreth standards, positioned himself between the stranger and the blanket, his back arched and a warning growl rumbling in his chest. The Thorian, twice the cub's size, backed away immediately, recognizing the sacred duty being performed. Albert noticed other changes too. The Kreth family began saving portions of their food rations, presenting them to Chloe at mealtimes. When she tried to refuse, Silver Whisker's mate, Darkpelt, insisted through the translator, "Gift demands gift. Honor demands honor." Word spread through the refugee hold about what the human had done. Other passengers began sharing their own resources with Chloe. A Venusian merchant gave her a thermal wrap. A Ganymede farmer shared his extra food synthesizer tokens. But Chloe redirected most of these gifts to others who needed them more. On the 8th day of their journey, the ship's proximity alarms blared. Pirates had tracked their ion trail, hoping to capture refugees for the slave markets. The Viridian Dawn, a civilian transport, had minimal weapons and a skeleton crew. As the ship shuddered under the first impact, panic spread through the hold. Passengers scrambled for emergency stations, but there was nowhere truly safe to go. Chloe found herself pressed against the bulkhead with the Kreth family, the cubs crying in fear. Albert rushed through the hold, helping secure loose cargo and injured passengers. "All humans to defensive positions," the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. There were only 5 humans aboard, each one suddenly invaluable. Humans, the galaxy had learned during the colony wars, had a particular talent for violence when necessary. Their endurance, their pattern recognition, their ability to function under extreme stress. These traits made them formidable defenders despite their relatively fragile bodies. Chloe started toward the access corridor, but Silver Whisker blocked her path. "You cannot go, human Chloe. You are precious one, gift giver." "I have to help defend the ship," Chloe said firmly. "That's what humans do." The 3 cubs suddenly appeared, forming a semicircle around Chloe. The smallest one, the one who'd been hypothermic, dragged her blue blanket across the floor and laid it at her feet. Then all 3 cubs sat on it, their eyes fixed on Chloe with unwavering determination. "They say you cannot pass," Darkpelt translated, though his body language made it clear he agreed. "The gift cloth is sacred. The gift giver is sacred. We guard both." Albert appeared in the corridor, his face grim. "Chloe, we need—" He stopped when he saw the scene before him. The 3 Kreth cubs, barely old enough to hunt, had positioned themselves as living shields. Other passengers had gathered too. The Venusian merchant, the Ganymede farmer, even the Thorian who'd been warned away days earlier. "She stays protected," Silver Whisker said, her voice carrying an authority that transcended translation. "This is Kreth law. This is honor debt. We protect the sacred." The ship shuddered again. Albert looked at Chloe, then at the assembled aliens, then back at Chloe. A slow smile crossed his face. "Maybe we don't need more humans at the guns," he said. "Maybe we need to remember why we're fighting in the first place." He keyed his communicator. "Captain, this is Chen. The refugees aren't just cargo anymore. They're crew. We protect each other. That's what makes us worth saving." The battle lasted 3 hours. The Viridian Dawn couldn't outgun the pirates, but it could outlast them. The civilian crew fought with desperate courage, and when the pirates finally disengaged, it was because they realized this ship wouldn't surrender. Not with 200 passengers who'd learned that survival meant standing together. When the all-clear sounded, Chloe found herself surrounded by the Kreth family. The smallest cub climbed into her lap, purring loudly, still wrapped in the blue blanket. Silver Whisker touched her forehead to Chloe's, a Kreth gesture of profound respect. "In our history," the mother said softly, "there are stories of the ancient ones who taught us honor. We thought them myths, but perhaps they were human." Albert sat down beside them, exhausted but smiling. "We're all just trying to survive out here," he said. "But every now and then someone reminds us that we can do more than survive. We can be kind. We can share. We can protect each other." Chloe wrapped her arms around the cub, feeling the warmth of her grandmother's blanket between them. Outside the viewport, stars streaked past as the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its passengers toward safety. The blanket would never smell quite the same again. It now carried the scent of Kreth cubs, of alien worlds, of shared survival. But somehow that made it even more precious. It had become exactly what her grandmother had intended when she'd made it all those years ago. A reminder that warmth was meant to be shared, and that the smallest gestures could kindle the fiercest loyalty. In the hold of the Viridian Dawn, 3 Kreth cubs stood guard over a faded blue blanket, treating it like sacred cloth, and perhaps in its own way it was.